Welcome everyone to today's meeting. Please note this will be a live broadcast meeting available to view on the Combine Authority YouTube channel. Please, and just on the microphones, everyone, all microphones are live all the time. So speak if you just keep quiet while others are going on, because they're not on off ones. Just wanted to say while we're here as well, welcome to Lee Mills, who is observing and is the recently made appointment as head of skills and employment education in our team. So welcome, Lee, and thank you for everything you've done so far. Item 1 is apologies for absence. Elizabeth,
there's no apology.
Thank you very much. Item 2 is the minutes that were held on the meeting on the 24th of October 2025. Members content of the minutes are correct record. Sorry, just shut on that. Sorry.
Thank you very much.
Item 3 is any declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest?
None from members. And on item 12, election to Nellie Volcart.
Thank you very much. Thanks so much. Item 4 is participation. We have one public question today from Hazel Peacock. Hazel is on Teams, as she is. You have 3 minutes to speak and ask your question. Are you ready, Hazel? Thank you very much.
Yeah, Tom, can everyone hear me okay in the room?
Yes, yeah, there we are. Great.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you very much for allowing me to attend. Thank you. So my name is Hazel Peacock, and I'm from the Oatlands and Panelash Road Safety and Active Travel Group in Harrogate. My question is, how can the Mayor help expedite committed and new road safety schemes in partnership with North Yorkshire Council for safer environments for school children and communities, and to help realise the full opportunity of active travel? The York and North Yorkshire Road Safety Partnership is working towards Vision Zero to reduce the number of those who are killed or seriously injured on our roads and improve the safety of all road users in York and North Yorkshire. But across North Yorkshire, road safety improvements appear slow and protracted. The work of North Yorkshire Highways is appreciated, but it appears ambition is not translating quickly enough into action, with the most significant scheme for the county taking over 3 years to start. In 2023, the community of South West Harrogate supported a grassroots 20-mile-an-hour scheme affecting 9,000 school children with 2,000 signatures of support, and North Yorkshire Council committed to deliver it as its landmark 20-mile-an-hour scheme. Phase 1 took 2 years, and Phase 2 is now scheduled for the end of 2026. Yet in Ilkley, a similar scheme with traffic engineering moved from consultation to implementation in just 4 months, delivered by Bradford Council. Calls to see 20 miles an hour and other key roads of the original scheme have been rejected by North Yorkshire due to the prioritisation of vehicles. C roads, Hookstone Road and Hookstone Drive with 4 schools, Leadhall Lane, a key route for school children, 1 kilometre long with no crossings, and Otley Road, a B road where Harrogate Grammar School sits. School children and community are at continued risk on a network with increasing car volumes, congestion, speeding, large vehicles and driver mobile phone use, all creating a risky and hostile road environment. Risks which are highlighted in data, with evidence from Transport for London showing a person hit by a vehicle at 30 miles an hour is up to 5 times more likely to be killed than if they were hit at 20 miles an hour. And the British Medical Journal this month cites there is a 44% relative increase in the likelihood of death for an adult pedestrian or cyclist hit by an SUV or a similarly large car compared with a standard car, and for children, an 82% relative increase in the likelihood of death. There is high demand in Harrogate for safer roads and active travel, seen in the Oatlands School Street, used by over 500 pedestrians and 43 cyclists on an average school day. An area previously so hostile, cycling was unthinkable. And also in the success of the Oatlands Bike Bus, one of the largest in the UK, with 65 to 100 participants every fortnight, showing the high demand for change. Road safety improvement is imperative for the safety of our community and those across the region. Through collaboration and ambition, we hope safer streets can be delivered with much needed urgency and the full potential for active travel realised. Thank you.
Thank you much for your time and question, Hazel. As you'll be aware, we've obviously created the Active Travel Fund, and we've also brought in Rihanna, our Active Travel Commissioner. And a big focus for myself and the Joe Coles is to make our streets safer for everyone, but also a big push on improving active travel right across York and North Yorkshire. We speak to a lot of community groups such as yourselves and others right across the patch who are really determined and want to see much improved provision, which I think across the patch we haven't seen enough of for a long period of time. So now having that fund, having Rhiannon, and being able to work with organisations like yourself to really speed up progress on these and actually identify those areas where we need to see improved active travel across the region. So I look forward to working with you on projects going forward and having a meeting again in good time again to see how we go forward. Thank you, Hazel, for your time this morning. Thank you very much. Item 5 is Mayor's update. So since the last meeting, a huge amount has gone on. I was very honoured to lay a wreath in Harrogate, my hometown, which was a great pleasure and honour to be able to do that. Building on the healthy and thriving communities, the Men's Mental Health Fund was launched, which was wonderful to be down the street reception to actually see the work we're doing on our Men's Mental Health Fund actually reflected in the Men's National Health Strategy. So again, a big thanks to everyone who's been involved and working on that. The Active Travel Commissioner announced Rhiannon, who's been doing great work, only been with us for a couple of weeks, but already seeing the energy that she's bringing into the role as well, and a huge engagement from her with both local authorities and Active Travel England. Round 3 of the High Street Fund is also now open, which is to support a further 19 communities that we funded through round 2. By all the sounds of it, the round 3 has been really well subscribed to. We've had over 60 applications already into that, which is fantastic to see. Earlier this week, we marked White Ribbon Day, which is the International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women, which marks the start of a 16 days action. And so myself and Joe, obviously great supporters of this, in particular the work that Joe is doing around the violence against women and girls. So already a lot of work going into that as well. A really exciting opportunity we had was we hosted food envoys from right across the world in York only a couple of weeks ago, and really bringing together some of our most fantastic food producers and businesses in York and North Yorkshire to create those relationships with envoys around the world, to how we can support them selling into new international markets, which we're very blessed that we have a strong connection with already. So really good opportunity to make more of that. The Aesthetica Film Festival, which is the UK Film Production Summit, the first gathering outside of London, was hosted in York a couple of weeks ago, which saw people from all over the world coming into York to see the unbelievable film and TV and other productions that happen in our patch. So great to highlight the work that's already happening there. We launched the bio agreement cluster with Ben Houchin, and obviously that working on cross borders with our 2 combined authorities coming together to show the real strength that we have, particularly around the research and development and the R&D that we do so well in York and North Yorkshire, and having that pan-regional working is going to be a great going forward with us and the Tees Valley Combined Authority. Joe Coles and I went to the North Yorkshire Police North Yorkshire Fire Rescue Awards celebration, which was just a great honour to be once there again and seeing the great work that's happening across York and North Yorkshire, but also particularly emphasis on the North Yorkshire Fire Service, who won the Team Training Award for the work they've been doing around training the next generation of firefighters coming through. We held our first Transport Advisory Board, which again is a great first step to bringing York and North Yorkshire's transport plans all together. which was really good to see. And obviously we had the announcements this week about the overnight visitor levy coming through, tackling the work around cost of living, and particularly the lifting of the two-child benefit cap, which 17% of children in York and North Yorkshire will be lifted out of that cap, and that's lifting 500,000 children nationally out of poverty, which is a great positive thing to be able to see and to be engaged with. And also we had our growth plan funding announced, which we'll be receiving £40 million over the next 4 years to support our growth plan. Just want to say an emphasis to a big, huge amount of work to Andrew Lehman and Kate McHugh and the rest of the team who've done a huge amount of work on our local growth plan and the work that's gone into that, and to be able to secure £40 million into our region, which we would never have had before, is a great opportunity to really drive investment into those key sectors and really see businesses growing in York and North Yorkshire, which we so badly want to see. So it's been a busy month. Item 6 is the Councillor Kilburn.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just and thank you for your update. Just a couple of points on it, if you don't mind, Mayor. Would that be okay? In terms of the growth plan funding, I think it is worth noting that we had no money coming our way at all as part of that growth plan funding until the work that was done by your team and yourself, Mayor, in lobbying the government. And I think for the residents of York and North Yorkshire, it's a clear demonstration of the added value that the combined authority is bringing by having that voice in Whitehall, where the decisions are being made as to where the funding's going for growth, and making sure that we secure a share of that. Of course, we want more, and of course, we can always do better. But we've got to start, and it's £40 million that we otherwise wouldn't have. That will be greatly appreciated by the residents of York and North Yorkshire. And talking of the residents of York and North Yorkshire, I have to say, Mayor, that some of the residents in York have been utterly bewildered by the response of some of our hospitality industries in York in their opposition to the overnight visitor levy. Obviously, the residents of York and North Yorkshire are very proud of where they live. We all live in a beautiful place that many people want to visit. Those visitors are very welcome, and actually we want more of them. However, they do take their toll on the infrastructure and the transport networks and of the places where they visit. And the residents of York, for sure, think that it is fair to ask for overnight staying visitors to contribute, I don't know, something in the region of £2 per overnight stay to help us sustain and keep our places lovely and to invest in the growth of those places for the residents who live here, so that they can have increased opportunity, and so that tourism has a benign circle that then benefits the people who already live here and help enhance their lives. So given that the charge that, I know one of the charges that the University of York St John's looked at is £2 a night, residents are bewildered why some hospitality in the hospitality sector would begrudge them £2 a night from an overnight stay. So what I would say to, and this, I would say it's by no means all of the sector that oppose it. I know plenty of people who work in the hospitality sector who are in favour of this because they can see the benefits. What I would like to suggest to the industry naysayers is that now is their opportunity to talk to us and to get on board with the programme, because it is happening.
Councillor, did you want to come there?
Yeah, please, if I may, Mayor. And Councillor Kilburn, I'll just ask a very quick question. I think it'd be helpful for the public to have a bit of detail how the new £20 million is going to be deployed and in what way it's going to benefit the economy. Because as a member of the public, I mean, I understand it, but the public watching and the wider membership of both authorities might not understand what that £20 million will deliver.
Could we clarify the amount? Because I've got 50 million and now Gareth's saying,
Oh, was it 50? I thought it was 20, wasn't it?
It's so, yeah, so with that phase of working out, if it was say £1 a night or £2 a night.
No, I'm not talking about the tourist tax. I'm talking about the growth fund. Sorry, I should have been clear.
Sorry, Gareth.
Yeah. Talking about the growth fund.
Sorry, yeah. So, I
You
mean,
did say 20, didn't you? Did you say
Yeah,
20?
40.
40, sorry, 40.
Yeah.
40. But what's 20 million quid? So we'll deal with that first, if possible. I think it'd be helpful for the public to know what that actually means.
yeah, so as you say, that announcement has literally just happened this week, so we're still working through the full details of what that can be used for, but it'll be linked towards our growth plan and the work around our sector specialists, for example, and specialism, but that literally money's only landed, well, it was only being announced literally on Wednesday, so we're still working through the details of what it would mean, what it could be used for, and then we will now be doing that work with obviously both for local authorities and going through the growth plan, identifying what those key sector areas are and how that money is best used. So shoring up, all those sectors and the linking into the growth plan work we've been doing. As we said, what we want to do is have a pipeline of projects coming out of the growth plan and fundable propositions. Well, now we've got some money to actually go and work on those plans and actually have them reach their full potential. But literally, we got that announcement on Wednesday. Before Wednesday, we were under the impression we weren't going to get anything. So we're in a really positive place now where we have this money to play with. We can now start doing that work on that.
Okay, I think what's important with it is that it's not gobbled up with a load of bureaucracy. It's welcome, by the way, but I'm sure you will pledge to do this, that we have a full known process by which the public and we can say how every penny of that £40 million is deployed and what the bang for our buck will be. And it's very welcome, like I said.
Yeah, and on that will follow the process of every single penny that we get coming into the combined authority. You'll be able to see where it's
sure, I mean, for example, Mr. Mayor,
process and everything else in between.
Mr. Mayor, with respect, what we don't want is to see a load of consultants employed yet again to help deliver, 15 million or 20 million quid and lose 5 million in bureaucracy. So it's got to be spent with value for money in mind. So broadly welcome it. Just onto the tourist tax levy, tourist tax or levy, depending on which side of the telescope you look at. I think we've got to be mindful. The majority of businesses in North Yorkshire are small enterprises. I suspect a lot of the so-called opposition to this is perhaps a lack of clarity. How will it be collected? We haven't got the answers to this yet. How will it be collected? A small, I don't know, somebody with a little holiday cottage on a farm, are they going to be burdened as being an unpaid tax collector? How is enforcement going to happen? Are local authorities going to be burdened with extra responsibility for collection of it? Who knows? So the quicker we get clarity on it, the better. Secondly, and I make my position very unclear because I'm sat on the fence. I feel like a Lib Dem, don't I? Sat on the fence over this. I haven't come to a view on it because we need more detail. But secondly, I will say this, and it will be a tax on tourism. We can spin it all we want. It's another levy. I'd feel a lot more comfortable, if I may say. It's likely not to be introduced before 2028 anyway. But I'd feel a lot more comfortable with it going through a ballot box.
So just on what's been announced this week is essentially that first step for us to be able to go and explore it. So now it's very much that piece of work on that consultation piece that's happening nationally, and we'll also be doing that and understanding that how it's going to be collected. Is it going to be a nominal fee? Is it going to be a percentage? What would we like to see it spend on? All that work is now taking place. So at the minute, you are right, we don't have those answers because we haven't asked those questions yet. But we're in a place now where we potentially can go and have a levy, but it's now exploring what that means, how it will be collected, what the impact will be, how we, how we link in with things like Airbnbs, not just hotels. All that work is now to be done, and obviously working with the sector and working with local authorities to understand what we'd like to see that money used for, what it can be used for. Currently, we don't even know if it can be used for X or Y. So all that work has been done now, but I think it's a great first step to be able to go explore it, because the potential of bringing potentially 50+ million into York and North Yorkshire a year, when we're talking about the money that we're trying to get in, and we have these conversations regularly to local authorities, who are always looking to how we can bring extra investment in, how we can bring money in, how we can support our sectors, how we can support our transport. This could be that thing that really helps us not only drive investment into supporting the sectors and those industries, but also our residents who live here all year round, who obviously welcome visitors, but also, as it's already been raised, that does have an impact on local services. It does have an impact on our transport and everything else. So I'm seeing it as a real positive. I understand there are concerns out there, absolutely, because we don't have those answers yet, absolutely. But now that's the phase we are working with. I'm spending the next few weeks going around and speaking to different hospitality associations and other organisations across the patch to reassure them of this process, because I understand it is quite a big step. We haven't done it before, but we've just got to look at the positives where we've seen in other countries where it has been implemented, how it hasn't impacted numbers coming in, but has freed up that potential to drive investment into those sectors. We're speaking to organisations and things like British Cycling and all the time who want to come and do events here, but someone's got to pay for it. And we know limitations and restrictions around local authority spending. But if we had some funding to go and attract these events, then that could be transformative for our area. So I'm seeing it as a positive. I hope the sector can, and I'm more than willing to speak to anyone in the sector who is concerned about it, and obviously yourself around this, about how we can make it work best for our region.
Yeah, so just finally, in response, Councillor Kilburn said, get on board, it is happening. Just to confirm that the government have announced their intention to give you the ability, or us as a combined authority, to levy it. It's not necessarily happening until we've been through that consultation phase and we've come to a decision about it corporately. That is the case. You've got the ability to introduce it.
We have to do.
That's not necessarily what you're going to do.
It's two separate things. We have the ability to go and do it. It's now doing the consultation phase, but I can only see it as a positive, frankly.
Yeah, just a couple of things. First of all, on the local growth plan money, we spent a long period of time collectively deciding what our area priorities are going to be from York and North Yorkshire, and that is what makes up the local growth plan. So we know what is in there, and you've already agreed to those in North Yorkshire, and I am fully expecting, I can't see there will be any other way of doing this, that 40 million will be going towards supporting those projects that we've already identified, which I think is a great thing. So there's a clearly outlined programme that was adopted by the combined authority that will be based upon. And then the other thing on the tourist levy, the overnight levy, is that there is a government consultation open now on that. That opened on Wednesday. So anybody can go in there and give their views on this. And that is part of the process, isn't it, Mayor? And we really would welcome and recommend that anybody who has a view on this goes and looks at participating in that. And it asks some of the questions that you've already outlined, Councillor, on how it will be administered, or the kind of suggestions for how this could work. So it's really important that everybody gets involved.
Yeah, and that consultation I think is running for 12 weeks. So there's plenty of time to go and do that as well. Okay, thank you. Okay, item 6, the mid-year finance update, which will be delivered by Mike Russell.
Thanks, Chair. This report presents the general budget's mid-year finance update for 2025-26 and provides an overview of performance to date and proposes some amendments to budgets. It's recommended that the combined authority notes the contents of this report and approves the amended core capital and revenue budgets as presented. In terms of overall position, at the halfway point in the year, we remain within our approved financial envelope.
Sorry, Mike, can you hold on 1 second?
Sorry, I feel as though I should. I completely, utterly forgot. I should declare an interest as a director of a very small property company that has holiday lets. It's just dawned on me. I got run away with the tourist stuff. So therefore, I do declare it. It's not pecuniary, but nonetheless. Sorry about that, mate.
To be fair to Councillor Dal, it wasn't on the agenda at the start of the meeting.
No,
so it did arise during.
Right.
Sorry, Mike.
I'll pick off again.
Apologies, Mike.
So this report presents the general budget to mid-year finance update for this year, provides an overview of performance to date and proposes some amendments to budgets. The recommendations on the report and the combined authority notes the contents of this report and approves the amended core capital and revenue budgets as presented. At the halfway point of the year, we remain within our approved financial envelope. Core budgets are forecast to deliver a surplus, mainly due to staffing underspends as the staffing establishment ramps up and higher treasury income than first budgeted. By September at the mid-year, 30% of our capital and 22% of our revenue budgets have been deployed. Forecasts suggest by the end of the year, 81% of capital and 95% of revenue will be delivered, with any unspent funding carried forward. Budget change, finalised funding allocations and rephasing of programmes, particularly in Adult Skills Fund, which follows the academic year rather than the fiscal year, so we've moved relevant amounts of income back into next year. In terms of core revenue budget highlights, there's a forecast surplus of 2.3 million, which will strengthen reserves. Revenue budgets now stand at 54.6 million for programmes, with modest underspends linked to programme phasing. Capital budgets for programmes have risen to 117.2 million, though delivery is forecast at 94.3 million, largely due to housing derailed timelines. The budgets have been allocated, but development and delivery timelines are slower than the funds. In terms of the Mayoral Investment Fund, of the 81 million gain share allocation for 2026 to 2028 this mayoral term, £67.5 million is currently committed, leaving 13.4 million available for future priorities. In closing, the authority remains in a strong financial position with budgets aligned to confirmed funding and delivery forecasts. Hand over to members and the committee for any questions.
Thank you, Mike. As I say, thanks for a lot of work in there, Mike, as well from you. I think it's fair to say that through obviously the power of devolution, we'll be able to bring in a lot of money into our region to see it going out the door so quickly, Mike. So thanks for all the work you've been doing on that. Any questions or comments for Mike on this? No, good.
Sorry, just a small one. It's just we've probably been told it before, and it's only a very, very small matter in the great scheme of things. When we look at core costs at 4.0 on our overall summary, there's an additional 96k. Can you remind me, Mike, what that was for?
That change actually probably needs reallocation. It's a match funded element for ASF AB funding. So
For what funding?
the adult education budget. Recall when we originally set those budgets, the initial phase we were required to give a match. That should actually be moved into the programme, but just wasn't done in time.
Well, okay. No,
Yep. Okay, thanks for that, Mike. So a proposer for this?
Proposed.
Seconder? All those in favour? Thank you very much for that. Item 7 is the Rural Bus Franchise and Pilot Studies, which will be Mike Scott to introduce this report. Thanks, Mike, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Yep. So the rural bus franchising pilots were announced by government in 2025 as part of the spending review. Here in York and North Yorkshire, we expressed an interest in those pilot studies, and a bid was submitted during August 2025. That bid was accepted by the Department for Transport the following month in September 2025, and the £546,000 allocated was then allocated to York and North Yorkshire, subject obviously to approval by the committee today. Our proposal that we put to the Department for Transport was to use the funding for two purposes: to fund a bus reform officer to coordinate the work and liaise with the Department for Transport consultants. Actually, that was a requirement that the Department for Transport had for part of this funding to recruit that officer. That also gives us some extra resilience in our transport team by recruiting that person on a 2-year fixed term. And then the second purpose was to undertake 5 pilot studies in rural areas, which will commence in January and extend to around June of next year. So those 5 pilot studies will be conducted in the York to Selby corridor, extending into over the border into South Yorkshire, in the environs of Scarborough and their connected coastal and inland communities, within the 2 national parks, the Yorkshire Dales and North York Moors, and then the 5th one in the Richmondshire and Northallerton area. And essentially each study will do 2 things. Each of those pilot studies will do 2 things. Undertake stakeholder engagement and consultation to understand what communities really think about buses and what their requirements would be. That includes tasking the teams doing those consultation to speak to hard to reach members of the community. Might be people with disabilities, younger people who might not be able to afford the bus typically, but to really get under the skin of what communities feel about their bus services. And then the second part of the study is then to look at how different models of bus franchising might particularly work and be appropriate for addressing those community requirements. Just a final comment, Chair, if I may. This is not about, at this stage, introducing new bus services. It's not a commitment to rural or any other kind of bus franchising, but it is really helpful sort of study work that will help us to understand how we might be able to address gaps in rural bus services within York and North Yorkshire. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah. And I think obviously we get welcome the support and confidence from the Department of Transport to be able to undertake this piece of work. And we all recognise the challenges of bus operating in our rural areas, but I think also just to underpin, also incorporate those urban areas as well as rural. Very far isolated areas in those urban areas as well. And again, you know, how we can deliver transport offering that supports everyone across York and North Yorkshire is a huge undertaking. So being able to deliver on this piece of work and have some resources and team support in this as well is greatly welcome. Any questions or comments for Mike on this paper? Yes, guys, come in there.
Thanks for the paper, Mike. And obviously, the investment from national government to do this study is greatly welcomed. And I guess what we'll all be looking for this study to answer the question to will be what next. So in terms of assessing costs, will it also assess latent demand? So, for example, one of the issues that we have in a place like York is that people who work in York quite often can't afford to live in York. So with the Selby corridor, for example, you know, will the study be looking at, as well as the franchising on current services, will it be looking at costs of additional services such as a late night bus from York back to Selby so that people who've been working in hospitality in York can get home? Will it be looking at that kind of thing as well?
Yeah, very much so. You know, that's really the purpose of the stakeholder engagement, to get a feel for what those gaps in the current bus offer is. They might be quite big gaps, or they might be quite minor in certain areas, but really to understand where those demands lie. And as you say, Councillor Kilburn, what the cost of those filling those gaps might be. That's an important part of this. So. Yes, thank you.
There's no more questions there. Would like to seek a proposal and seconder for.
It's proposed, Chair.
Second, yeah. And all those in favour? Thank you very much. Thank you, Mike. Item 8 is the approval of investment framework strategy for York and North Yorkshire Combined Authority. Rolls off the tongue that. It will be introduced by Andy. Are you on this one, Andy?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So this report seeks the endorsement of an investment framework approach for the Combined Authority and the approval of an investment strategy that is set out in Appendix 1. So the investment framework is a major milestone for the Combined Authority. It will provide us with a targeted strategic approach to seek and apply investment, and it also ensure that we have a managed pipeline of credible investable propositions. These are increasingly crucial factors in securing both private and public sector investment into the region you need the pipeline to be able to attract the investment, which we want to maximise for York and North Yorkshire. Make sure we achieve this, the framework establishes an approach that assesses and prioritises projects that are both investment ready and strategically aligned to the combined authorities' adopted economic framework and the local growth plan. It'll also be used as a proactive tool to positively manage projects that are not yet ready for investment and further work and may need further work to improve their strategic or economic business cases. Investment strategy that underpins the framework has been developed with KPMG, and it aligns to both the economic framework and the local growth plan as mentioned before. And it sets out the approach to maximise investment into the region and a set of core investment principles that will allow us to do that. But these principles will ensure that we focus on leveraging all available funding streams, not just devolved funding streams to the mayor, addressing market gaps and failures to drive economic growth, prioritising investment to where there can be regionally significant impact from that investment, promoting co-investment and collaboration, ensuring a robust project development and delivery principles, and maintaining a strategic flexibility in how we seek and apply investment. Should the investment framework be adopted today, the next stage will be to develop an investment pipeline, a detailed investment pipeline working with the local authorities, investors, businesses and universities across the region. And then ultimately that will allow us to produce an investment prospectus which will highlight the range and scale of investment opportunities and to showcase York and North Yorkshire as a place in which to invest.
Thank you, Andy. I say this has been a really positive piece of work. I think it just, having this framework when we sort of have that clear defined plan really supports this effort to seek particularly government investment. Obviously seeing with Haxby Station as a classic example, having that clearly defined worked up proposal really works. Obviously supporting further investment, job creation, into our region is great from this. So did you want to come in there?
Well, just to say, I really welcome this paper. I think this is absolutely our core business. So I'm pleased to see the paper here. Look forward to bringing forward ideas for our part of the pipeline.
Yeah, thanks. I think that this is a really strong step forward, and as Councillor Dad outlined earlier, it's really important that the public has trust in the decisions that are made within the combined authority about how public money is spent, and this is a very good example of how that will be monitored. So it's a very positive step forward, and I'd just like to say to everybody, I'm going to continue reminding that we are moving from the title Haxby Station to York North, because we want to show that this is a York station, and few people, we know where Haxby is, fewer other people do. Everybody knows where York is and what York North station will bring to the city and also to the broader region and areas like Scarborough. So Network Rail are in the process of making those changes, and I think that we can all we all need to start using the title, otherwise everybody will be totally confused. Thank you.
Apologies for that.
Not at all.
No, not at all. I mean, I was calling it Skaith Holt, so I've been I've been corrected there as well. So I just actually, Andy, I wanted to thank you and your team for the great collaborative work that you've done with the local authorities on this in terms of their business. It really is a good example of the sum of the parts being greater than the whole. And in terms of the prize that we're looking at, I couldn't help but look rather jealously across the Pennines earlier in the week where Mayor Burnham announced £1 billion growth plan for a part of the country that has been growing faster than any other part of the country outside the southeast. And that is based on that growth, and that continuing growth is based upon successful private-public partnerships with public investment where it's needed, encouraging private investment in a stable place where we know those things can grow. And on top of that, it's good growth. So it's growth that builds socially affordable housing, gets people into work, that pays wages that you can build a life around. So I think these are our early steps. Not bad for a combined authority that's a little over a year old, but these are our early steps, but that's the prize, and I think it's a prize worth reaching for.
Thanks, Andy, for that. Okay, recommendations can be found on page 28 of the agenda pack. Seek a proposer and seconder.
Seconded.
And all those in favour? Thank you. Thanks, Andy, for that. Item 9 is how does the National Industrial Strategy help to deliver the local growth plan? Andrew Lehman to introduce this report. Andrew, thank you.
Thank you. Even more catchy title. Basically, this report brings back the local growth plan that we approved back in July. So it was agreed that when we approved that we would bring a paper back on the industrial strategy, and in particularly its alignment, because the industrial strategy was only just being published at the point in which we got the local growth plan through to here. So we wanted to make sure that that alignment was happening, but also what opportunities the industrial strategy would have in terms of the delivery of the local growth plan. So primarily the report sets out aspects of the National Industrial Strategy in particularly, and also how that links to our local growth plan priorities and particularly our competitive edge sectors. So the National Industrial Strategy identifies 8 key industrial sectors within its plan, and the table in 5.3 and some of the tables throughout the document sets out and shows how these read across to our local growth plan priorities. In particular, just highlight a few. So under advanced manufacturing, which is one of the sectors in the industrial strategy, National Industrial Strategy identifies agri-tech, which links to what we're proposing under our food and farming innovation strand. And in particularly, as the Mayor pointed out earlier in his update, the BioFutures cluster event with Tees Valley is a starting point to that work. Another example is the digital technologies. Sorry, that was the other way around. The engineering biology sector is part of the digital technologies, which is the BioFutures cluster, and linked into that side of our priorities. Also, there is industrial strategy priorities around clean energy, life sciences, creative industries. So there's a clear link across to what we're trying to do locally. So we, as officers of the CA, working with some of the key representatives in the business board in some of these industries, and academia and the local authorities have worked quite a lot with government officials on now the development of sector plans within each of the industrial strategy strands. And in particular, one of those is the emerging defence industries, which is becoming something that is being raised in this area. So there's a lot of opportunities. And then in terms of the table that's included in the report around some of the priorities, the potential investment and some of those programmes that have been identified. Obviously, this report was written prior to the budget, but we can already see the 40 million that's already been mentioned for the local growth fund. There's also proposals for local innovation partnership fund, which we will bring back to this CA meeting in January as part of that innovation update. So there's other opportunities that are appearing on that. I think the key thing on the recommendations and the reason for bringing this back to here was really the question of, does the industrial strategy actually change some of our local growth plan priorities, and therefore did we need to re-agree some aspects of the local growth plan? The conclusion when we've gone through this is no, we've got our local growth plan and agreed. The industrial strategy now just provides us with a real opportunity to deliver against that. So recommendations are just to note the outcomes of the industrial strategy, but also to agree that our local growth plan, which was approved in July, doesn't need to be amended.
I think, again, thank you for a huge amount of work on this, and just to touch on earlier comments made by colleagues, it's more just about growth we're talking here. It's about really creating quality jobs for our people in York and North Yorkshire. Drive an opportunity in our region that so many unfortunately don't feel like they have. So an opportunity to really drive that investment and really grow an economy that really works for all people. And that real emphasis on that real good growth that we're talking about. We want to create opportunities and jobs and things for everyone to really have a high quality life in York and North Yorkshire. So again, thanks for all the work that's been done on there from members who've all been involved in this work as well. If you want to.
Yes, yeah, if I could just say that I think it's really a testament to the work that's been done across the local authorities and the combined authority teams, that our local growth plan is really well aligned with the national industrial strategy. And it's really good to know that we've responded to that throughout the process and are ready to deliver on the government's plan for the nation. And North Yorkshire and York are ready to go on that. So we, as the Mayor does regularly, I know, on a daily basis, speaking to civil servants and politicians in Whitehall about how we bring that investment into the region, therefore, to support this. So another example of how we're ready to go, and we're ready to deliver for the government. So the funding that's come through for the local growth plan recently is really well received and is a starting point, but we know that there's so much more and we're ready to deliver that, aren't we? Thank you.
Thank you for that. Was that going to Pete, come on?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I was trying to find out when the last time was we had a national industrial strategy, and I think it's probably mid-70s. So this could be the first national industrial strategy that the country's had in 50 years. And I think, as Councillor Douglas says, it shows that we mean business. And I think, Andrew, you might be hiding yours and the teams and the Mayor's lights under a bit of a bushel. One of the reasons why the national industrial strategy aligns so well with our local strategies is that we had a lot of input into the national industrial strategy, and I think it will be fair to say, to some extent, we helped shape that by what the needs are for York and North Yorkshire. So congratulations on a job well done.
Any more comments? Okay. Recommendations can be page found on page 59. A proposer and
Proposed.
And all those in favour? Thank you very much. Thank you, Andrew, for that piece of work. Item 10 is the York and North Yorkshire Strategy for Sustainable Future. Andrew, can you speak on this? Oh, sorry, Annika, sorry.
Yeah, I'll introduce this and I'll hand over to Andrew just to add a bit more detail. Just want to give a bit of context that this report's a product of the huge amount of work that we've done to review the previous route map to carbon negative. So following lots of feedback from stakeholders and partners as we've gone through that process, we've completely reframed the approach to be a strategy for a sustainable future. It's important to state that the overarching ambition remains absolutely the same, to be England's first carbon negative region by 2040, and we continue to have a credible pathway to achieving this. But what we have done is focused on making sure that the approaches and the languages in the new strategy framework that's set out today are also anchored in the real positive everyday changes that reaching the ambition can provide. So just to pick a couple of examples in that, which Andrew may want to elaborate on, but ensuring warm, comfortable buildings that are cheap to heat, having clean, affordable, reliable power, enhancing our natural environment. These are all factors which will be achieved through our overarching aim of moving towards a carbon negative region. So I'll hand over to Andrew and he'll provide a bit more detail on the next steps for this strategy.
Yeah, so I was just going to go through briefly the diagram. I think it's on page 89 of the papers as part of the annex on the frameworks. I think first of all to say that this is a framework, and the strategy detail of this will start to come out once we've got the principles of this framework agreed. That tends to be the way we're doing our strategic documents now, in the sense of getting that overall agreement to the principles and aims and objectives of what we're trying to achieve, and then we can start to put the meat on the bones within that, and the consultation process can go on and back. So the diagram on that page 89 basically sets out our ambition to lead the way in tackling climate change, creating a truly sustainable future. And that's at the centre of what we do, and in particularly that benefits our communities and our business. And that's really critically important on this. And then from that, there's a series of strategic pillars around securing energy independence, moving towards circular economy, and improving our environment. So they're the key pillars of what we're trying to achieve within that context of a framework. And then we start to look a little bit around what some of those high impact sectors might be. So these are the things that have been sort of reworded a little bit to be a little bit more about the everyday really, and that's where the warm, comfortable buildings, innovative, sustainable businesses, accessible, convenient transport, a healthy marine and coastal environment, resilient landscape, sustainable food and farming, and empowering community action, clean and affordable and reliable power. So those things become, in the sense, those high impact sides of things. So they are the things that we'll start to develop the sort of actions around and the principles around, the proposals around. And then ultimately around those big goals and those big ambitions around being England's first carbon negative region, having healthy and thriving communities, and also an economic transformation and economic growth. So that, in a sense, overview of the framework. The next steps really from following this meeting, if this framework is agreed, the consultation plan will be drawn up, strategy will be drawn up, and that will be presented to a future CA meeting with more of the details on as a consultation document. And then obviously to an agreement of the plan itself, which we're aiming for around the spring to have that fully agreed. So thank you very much. Any questions?
Andrew, Andy?
Do you want to speak first?
No, you can go.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. We really welcome seeing this update, and I think it was another good example of a good cross local authority, combined authority working with the co-chairs of the working group being our respective representatives from both constituent authorities who lead on climate change in our spaces. And so I know that they're very supportive of what we've got in front of us today. And but I do think it's really important that we also recognise that the local authorities have been working on their approach to climate change and climate emergency and in respective approaches to that for a long time now, and we both have our own policy documents in North Yorkshire. I'm not sure of the exact titles, but in York we certainly have our own climate change strategies and implementation and action plan. We know what we want to do, we know what we need to do, and we know when it needs to happen. And so it's really important that this kind of overarching strategy that is within the combined authority responds to what's going on locally and doesn't seek to recreate an additional unrelated approach, and because that would just be duplication and not positive in moving us forward at pace to implement what we already know we need to do. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this process develops over time, but welcome this first steps. And so the recommendation at 1.2 that I asked to be integrated in there reflects that we have our local policies and approaches that need to integrate. So, thank you.
I think the language in this is always so important, isn't it? I'm not sure that many people actually understood what net zero meant, but actually a sustainable future. I think it is an easier understanding, and I think when we do the consultation, we do need to make sure that we're not just dealing with the macro. We know it's the right thing to do, but it's about saying to people, do you understand that it can be very helpful to you in your way of life, in your cost of living, that if you do these sort of things, you actually save money on your household bills and running your shop, your factory, your hotel, or whatever.
Yeah, and just on that piece, absolutely. And that's why, you know, that consultation piece and that comprehensive engagement piece that's happened that's why so much of that language has changed to reflect that. And it has been a huge piece of work, and that engagement with both local authorities in particular has been absolutely key to having this piece of work in the place it is now. I think it's all understood that maybe it was always the most clearest to read through, but actually having that language change now, so it's moving forward that way, I think has been a huge benefit to be able to go.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And with reference to Councillor Les's point, you can't really blame people for not understanding what net zero means when the definition seems to get stretched so much by different organisations. So it's good to simplify the language. I've got a very late ask from Councillor Kent, the exec member for Environment in York. And I must stress it's late because I failed to pick it up, not because Councillor Kent was late, but it's entirely on mine. And she is asking if we can include water bodies such as lakes and rivers in terrestrial climate action, because if they are unhealthy, they are carbon emitters. Whereas obviously if they're healthy, then they are great carbon sequesters. So I know it's late, but if we can have a think about lakes and rivers as well in terms of their role in this, I will make Councillor Kent very happy, and I will have fulfilled my duty. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would just stress this is a consultation now, Andrew, isn't it, to take forward, so we can make changes, we can adapt. You know, we will be reflecting on any responses we get back, so immediately we can respond to that.
Recommendations are on page 85 of this. A proposer and seconder.
Opposed.
And all those in favour? Thank you very much. Thank you for that report. Item 11 is governance matters, calendar of meetings, report by Rachel. Paul Clark it is. I'll be Paul straight after I did that. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. It does seem a little bit frightening that we're back to this report again. It only seems like 5 minutes since we were doing last year's. Usual format, this report sets out the calendar of meetings for 26-27. This covers the combined authority meetings and its statutory audit and governance, overview and scrutiny committees, as well as the 2 advisory boards, Business Board and Transport Advisory Board. We've endeavoured as far as we can to avoid clashes with North Yorkshire Council and City of York Council, but mindful that the calendars are very busy throughout the year and there may be 1 or 2 clashes that have been unavoidable. I just draw members' attention to the latter part of the calendar. We are heading into 2027. There are local elections in May 27, so we will have a pre-election publicity period, which we've obviously accounted for in our planning. Nothing further to add to what's in the paper. Happy to take any questions or observations members may have.
Do we have any questions for Paul? Yes.
Well, just to ask about these variable times for the committees and the boards, will we know which ones are chosen when they have their first meeting? Oh.
Yes, I think the expectation or the wish of members is to try and stick to mornings if we can, because it's easier for travel purposes. As soon as this calendar's signed off, we'll have them put in the diary. So they'll be going in the next week or so. Members can firm them up. Yeah.
So just a slight comment, it seems to be my job generally, is to point out that the title of the calendar is meetings 25-26 currently. I think that's the typo. It should be 26-27.
Thank you for pointing that out. That's my long-running battle with Microsoft Excel and its headers and footers section. I'll have that corrected.
That's it. So it's a new term now, the pre-election publicity period. So is it PEP? Is that what we're going to be calling it from?
It is, yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, yeah. So recommendations for that go on page 100. Proposer and a seconder. Yeah. And all those in favour? Okay. Item 12. Item 12. On this one there.
Yeah, so the purpose of this report is to seek approval to appoint 3 statutory officer roles, namely scrutiny officer, data protection officer and a senior information and risk owner. So the background to this and the sort of legislative requirements are in point 3. The background to this is that the three roles, namely the three roles, were temporary appointments when the combined authority were established. And recently the Legal and Governance Service have been through a restructure, so these appointments are now proposed to be permanent appointments. So in terms of the first one, it's a scrutiny officer that's currently temporarily covered by Paul Clark, who is the governance manager. But from Monday, his role will be head of governance. So the proposal is that that scrutiny officer role remains with Paul Clark. The second is data protection officer. So we now have a new head of compliance in the organisation, Becky Cannon. So we have that in-house capacity. So just want to put on record to thank Veritao for their support to date, because they've been covering the DPO role up until now. And the third one is the senior information and risk owner. So Mike, as our director of resources, has been covering that statutory role up until now. But as the legal and governance service have got all of the data and information within their service, it's proposed that that now sits with Rachel Antonelli as the director of legal and governance. Thank you.
Any questions or comments?
I'm just happy to propose this on the basis that there's no additional financial strain because they're being incorporated into existing roles. So I'm happy just to move on. It seems to me that it's just a means to an end, isn't it?
Just tidying it up, yes.
We haven't even had a consultant to arrive at the decision.
It's consistent.
Yeah, he is consistent, yeah. I'll give him that.
I'm going to clearly demonstrate my ignorance here, but I've never worried about that too much. In terms of senior information risk officer, can you give us an example of the kind of departmental information risk that they would be responsible for controlling? I can't get my head around what that job is.
Basically, there are organisational employee whose job it is to be over all of the data risk. So it's separate from the data protection officer because that's covered in specific legislation, and there would be a conflict between the two roles. So the CIRO is there to make sure that all of the authorities' data and information systems are compliant with regulations and safe in the context of law.
So beyond the data protection legislation, what would that be?
Well, so there's GDPR and data protection. There are other personal rights. There's all of the compliance with various public rights in terms of SARS and things like that. But there's also the actual.
Oh, okay.
Whereas data protection would cover, have you complied? This role is more widely because it's more interested in are the systems robust, fit for purpose in the future. So it looks more difficult to the organisation rather than specifically just the compliance.
So making sure that if an FOI comes in, it's handled correctly. Would that be part of
the
the role?
DPO that would handle it, but the CIRO would be
making sure that the DPO.
But also making sure that whatever system we hold that data in is fit for purpose,
right, okay.
doesn't leak information.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. I'm ignorant no more.
Okay, happy with that on there? So recommendations are page 107, sorry, on the agenda pack. A proposer and seconder for this? Yeah, and all those in favour?
No.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Very much. Okay, item 13 is the forward plan. Paul Clark. Second.
Is published. What I would say is there are a couple of items that are still in draft that are going on to the next public version, which members may wish to give attention to. That is for the innovation strategy, which is coming in January, and there will be bi-monthly updates on the Mayor Investment Fund from the Economy Directorate. Looking ahead to February, there may be a report on the future of the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, and then looking ahead to March, there will be a report on retrofit. So these are all in draft at the moment. They'll be going out on the new version of the forward plan in the next couple of weeks, and that'll be circulated for members' attention.
Any questions for members?
Yeah, and just for clarity for the public, I know that some of the items that are on here have got a date for decision of them for the 24th of October, which is obviously past now. So have those decisions been made and they're not on the forward plan anymore? Is that correct?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Douglas. This is down to the date that the current version was published, which was towards the end of October. So at the time it was published, it was, I think, the day before the October Combined Authority meeting when they were still yet to be made. So those decisions have been made, the decisions have been actioned, but they're no longer formally part of the forward plan.
No more questions? Everything. I'm just happy just to note the forward plan. Thank you. And item 14, urgent business. No urgent business. So thank you all for those in attendance today. The next meeting is Friday, the 23rd of January 2026 at 10:30 in West Offices in York. So thank you very much today and see you then. Thank you very much.